right. We'll call, like a good Rhode Islander. We'll call the school building committee meeting to order today, Thursday, February 20th at 6 p.m., 6:03 p.m. And I'll do a roll call. Brian Sylvia? Here. Dave Palazetti?
Aye.
Bob Littlefield?
Here.
Kate Massananti, I'm here. Luke Murray?
Here.
Chip McGarr?
Here.
Terry Lynch?
Here.
And Jim Manny?
I am here. Right
Sweet.
here.
And we have representatives from Studio G, Left Field, and Slam Collaborative. We have Gilbane in the house. No. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So public correspondence. I received. I'll make sure I grab it. Where are we? My apologies. I want to make sure I don't miss speak. So we had two emails, one from Mr. Beasley, paraphrasing here from Chris Spiegel. When are the schematic design documents going to be put up on the website? And when will we have a new Gilbane estimate? And I believe both of those things, the schematic design we're not putting up to the website until we do an official submission to RIDE. And then the new Gilbane estimate, say again, at the end of design development. So it'll be a while. And then copy and paste it directly from an email from Greg Sweet. What is the current square footage of the building? And just to make sure I understand the money part, if the building comes at 150 million, then you have an additional 2.5 million to spend, so the project could be 152.5 million, is a question. Kate, would you mind addressing for us? Clearly, he's referring to the PAYGO approval that we received from town council a few weeks back. Might take a minute.
You're gonna press it.
Sorry, technical difficulties there. So the answer to the question is the revised floor plans we'll be reviewing a little bit later today, based on the reductions we took after value engineering, are coming in around 153,000 square feet, which is great. It's a little bit bigger of a target reduction, or bigger of a reduction than we had targeted for. And then project budget remains at $150 million. The PAYGO is intended to be a contingency if the cost goes over $150 million. So if the project cost comes in at 150, then that will be the cost.
So clarification on that. So there's still a bunch of contingency built into the program itself. So because we're using this money up front to pay some costs, and then there's technically, we have contingency outside of that can be used at the end, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So there are several contingencies baked into the project. The construction manager has their own contingency. The owners have their own contingency. Right now, since we're still in the estimating phase, we have escalation built in. We have design and pricing and estimating contingencies. So as of right now, we have several different buckets. The PAYGO was intended to be an additional contingency above the 150 if we were to need that based on the rejections of certain programmatic reductions during VE.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions, comments, and concerns about that? Okay. That is the only public correspondence that was handed over to me. So let's get right into our new business. We have new business item number 3, discussion, the Rhode Island new construction program. Chris asked me to have this on, and Chris is not here. Can anyone else speak to that at this point?
This is the Rhode Island Energy Program, which is the incentive program for, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I don't know exactly Chris's intention. The incentive program is through Rhode Island Energy, and it is continuous meetings we'll have to target potential rebates for the project. Based on square footage, we're targeting over $100,000 in costs that will come back at the end of the project.
Thank you. And our new business item number 4, status update from the project labor agreement, or otherwise known as the PLA.
So we're going to tag team on this. So in March, Dylan Connolly could not make the council meeting for this Monday. So in March, we'll be having him come in. He's obligated, he's confirmed that he will be here to present to council on what he presented to us at our last meeting and summarize what a PLA is, go over what the feasibility study said, and then the recommendations. So I've drafted a memo, and actually Kate provided some input that I've woven into that. That'll go to council in preparation for that meeting in March. Does that cover everything?
That covers it, yeah. We just summarized the findings of the report, which we all heard, and essentially Connolly Law is recommending us moving forward with a PLA based on all of the factors that Luke will outline in his memo.
And who makes that final decision, though? That's the council?
So it's not necessarily a decision as much as it is an informational point. The PLA will be between the construction manager and the labor unions. So the town is not a signatory to the PLA. It will be referenced in our construction contract with Gilbane once that becomes, once we execute that. But the PLA itself does not have the town as a signatory.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions on that? Moving on to new business item number 5, discussion action. This body needs to make a recommendation to town council for the approval of the commissioning agent. Luke, I don't know if you want to talk to that.
Yeah, so actually, Kate, do you want to go over the review process that you undertook? Really, it was an internal team of our technical experts that took this on as far as a review, but if you want to take that.
Yes, so we received 4 bids for a commissioning agent. We did have an evaluation matrix based on the evaluation criteria that was outlined in the RFQP. There was a review committee that was assembled that included the architectural team, our MEP team, Left Field's MEP consultant, our project manager, me, and Phil from Studio Jade as well. So Phil from Studio Jade, and then Brian Mahoney, our facilities director, who unfortunately is not able to make it tonight. So we had a 5-person review committee. Each person independently submitted their review based on the evaluation criteria. Those evaluation criteria are then averaged out. And we actually have a tie for the top 3 of the qualified bidders. And our recommendation, based on the fact that there is a tie between the top 3, is to go with the lowest bidder, which is Catalyst Commissioning Group.
So the review committee consisted of yourself, Phil, there was a MEP from Studio Jade, an MEP from Left Field, and then Brian Mahoney, right? So we had a 5-member review team. And it ended up that we had a tie. So my advice was, unless we had a good reason to go alternative, that if we're saying they're all equally qualified, go with the low. So that's for the consideration of the building committee.
I forwarded this document, I believe, to everybody on the committee today. Does anybody have any questions as far as the process or the decision? Bob?
And could I also ask, for the benefit of the less enlightened, of which I am one, could you, and for those watching from home, could you explain to us, please, what a conditioning agent's responsibilities are?
Yes, a commissioning agent, it is a requirement of any chips. So we have a commissioning agent that's a third party to review both our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, as well as our building envelope, which is the skin of the building, to make sure that everything is working properly. They will check the design, make sure it's designed properly. They'll evaluate bids, and they will be reviewing the installation process and ultimately doing functional testing with the contractor to make sure the systems are fully operational. They'll also be overseeing envelope testing, which is air and water leakage on the outside of the building.
Thank you.
So for the benefit of all, the low bid was, we have as 114, is that right? Base bid, total bid.
Base bid is 114,000 plus 4,000 for an additional security design review for 118,600 total between those two.
So our high bid was actually from Fitzmyer, right? Yeah, Fitzmyer, that was 219,000. Stephen Turner was 218,600, and then we had Collier's coming in at 156,941.
So if, I agree with your logic, if they're all the same, that you go with the low bid, but it does seem like the low bid is significantly lower, which kind of puts up a red flag to me. So do we have any, again, I know that you probably went through reference checks and everything else as part of the technical review team, but are we really comfortable they scored exactly the same as the other ones based on past performance?
So that's a good question, because I actually brought this up to Kate. So if you look at the qualification scoring, the cost was weighted as part of the scoring matrix, right? And so it does skew the numbers some because they're so low. Like Stephen Turner rates higher on overall qualifications, but it's balanced out against Catalyst's low cost number. So it is an area of concern for me, even though I said, you know, all things being equal, because we have to make a justified case to council. But that's for discussion of this committee, whether, you know, we want to make that recommendation or not. But I would point that out as if there are some numbers in here that are definitely skewed.
Right, so that is the way you do the scoring. There's nothing wrong. It's the way the state does the scoring. You open the price and then you get a total score. But I'd be curious to see what the scores are before the price, before the cost. Do we have that?
Yeah, it is, I mean, I can go through and add up the numbers and we can review it, but it is, if you zoom out a little bit, Luke, I think it's 2 through 6, the evaluation criteria are just qualifications, and then 1 is cost. So there is a number assigned for each. We can add them up if you want. I can go do that while we're talking about something else.
Yeah, sorry to be a pain, but I'm really curious. If the prices were kind of in the same range, like you've got 2 around 218, then I'd feel fine about it. But that is, I mean, 114 to 218. When you got 2 people at 218, one at 150, and the other one's even further, it's a standard deviation probably from. If there's anybody who can do math around here better than I can, so I'm a little nervous about that.
I don't see that as being a pain. I see that as due diligence, Dave, so thank you. And if you could do that, and so we'll just kind of put a pin in this one for right now, unless people want to ask questions while Kate does math.
I'll do it while SLAM is working on doing their design presentations.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right, so we'll just put a pin in this one for the moment, and we'll move on to business item number 6, which is strictly a discussion. There's no decision to be made. It is an update on design development plans.
Right. Okay, we will be putting up a presentation, hopefully, if it hasn't killed your computer yet. Luke? All right, so I'll go through some planning. I do have some three-dimensional imagery to show you. I do not want you to get hung up on colors. You're going to see colors, but that's a whole broader discussion that'll happen later. But I do want to talk about the building massing and how we achieve some of the efficiency We have been working closely with your professionals and Chip and your superintendent to really make sure that as we implemented all of the value management changes and we went a little above and beyond, I found some efficiencies in planning that I'll go through, that it met the criteria for a world-class educational environment. And actually, I think we exceeded it. The planning now is better than it was at the higher price. Sometimes that happens. You make a diamond with pressure. So we go to the first image. I'll go through some floor plans. I don't expect you to read all the text. It is hard to read. The basic formation of the building has stayed fundamentally the same. We have the gym and the cafeteria to the north. We have the theater, auditorium, sports spaces to the south. The pink color, it's pink to me, off to the right, in the upper right, are some of the construction tech, the larger CTE spaces. The dark blue spaces are office and nurse and some of the support spaces that you need within a facility. And then to the left of that is the first level of classroom spaces. And the key difference here is the 3-story component for classrooms got bigger, which made the first floor footprint get smaller, significantly smaller. That slab on grade is some of the most expensive space that we can build. By shrinking that footprint, we shrink the footprint on a site, we get better siting in terms of the road network, bus traffic, circulation for parents, dropping off 200 parents, that's a lot of cars to drop off. We've also been able to deal with some of the things that came up in our last rounds of interviews with the faculty. For instance, we've been able to move the nurses' office to an outside wall with direct access to the lobby space for or entrance to the theater. So if you have a sick child or you have another kind of a flu event or an outbreak, you can take people in and out there and not mix with the rest of the public. So it makes pickup much easier. We have the cafeteria, I think, at a great location. We have moved the kitchen to the outside wall, which makes venting of that kitchen, service of that kitchen much, much easier. It's more efficient in its layout. We've combined the bathrooms, those 2 gray boxes in the middle of the plan.
Sorry to interrupt. What
Yeah.
was just in the for what it's worth category, when we were looking at this, it was very helpful to just kind of zoom into different areas when you were
Yeah.
pointing to them, because then everyone could really see it.
You can
So,
see it, yeah. Yeah.
Is that doable, Luke? I know it's putting a lot of pressure
Put a
on
lot
you,
of
but-
pressure. No pressure there. Yeah.
Anything else you'd like?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, maybe you could print off a few copies.
Yeah. Well, we got 3D stacked diagrams, so that'll help too. So
Yeah.
I'll be able to point to some things that explain how we build it up. Oh, now we're on the wrong floor. Now we're on the second floor. We skipped a floor. If you zoom into like the central bluish, aqua blue zone, that's cool. So we've been able to get guidance, the main office, the same sort of security features, the same lobby that we had before, all of that is still there. A key difference of previous schemes, we had the lobby, the entrance from the north and the entrance from the south were offset a structural bay. We've aligned them. So now there's sort of a clear see-through lobby that runs from the north to the south. That just off the screen till, yeah. I could probably point if I could. I've carried the mic before, so actually Kathy has held it for me.
We're going to strap it on here.
Yeah, exactly. So where his hand is right now is that through lobby. That really gives Chip and administrative staff the ability to control both doors from a single point. The SRO's office is in sort of a friend-making zone right off the cafeteria, so they can interact with the students and build mentorship and relationships. That was something that we heard in the interview process with them. Your public interface during school hours, as you come into the secure vestibule, we have the same book bag drop, or my son or daughter forgot their computer or whatever, they can drop it without getting into the building, so it makes it very easy for parents. So quick park, get in and out. That through lobby, I think, will be a very elegant feature for after hours for your community coming in for events. Very easy to circulate through the facility. The cafeteria becomes a big social space, a social heart for the facility. That it's not just about eating. They become study spaces. The furniture is different than what we all grew up sitting on and eating food in. The food's probably better than what I ate growing up too. We have a little bit of mechanical space. The gym We have taken the track away from the upper level. That hasn't done anything to the gym at this level. I've been able to get the storage in a more appropriate spot off the end line underneath the hoop. So we got tall storage there for athletic equipment that needs to be within the gym. We have the auxiliary gym fitness room where practice wrestling mats can be laid out, rolled up when not in use. Same capacity of the gym, no change there. Same locker room arrangement, we maintained that. We maintained much of the CTE program. We did get the loading dock in a location where we're adjacent to the CTE program. The thing that's interesting too is your construction tech lab. There's a garage door that opens up to what we'll call a construction tech yard, the courtyard off to the left, so that can be fenced in. So you can build things outside, store materials outside as you're currently doing in more of a secure environment. So I think safe for kids to be out there with power tools and the things that they need to do. Great connectivity between the two construction tech spaces. If we go to the auditorium, which is just to the south of this, you can see there's a gym lobby space that we have, so there's multiple ways to get in and out of the gym. We have a theater lobby, stair that gets you up to the balcony, all the control and sport rooms. The theater size has not changed. I've gotten to the 153 target without targeting this space. So there's probably still a little bit of work I can do to take maybe a few more 100 square feet out, and that's more about making the balcony work technically. It's a diagram right now, so as I go to actually lay it out with the sight lines, it's going to get a little tighter. Support space in the back, that hasn't changed. I've added a storage room. I shrunk the coral room. Chip will want to talk a little bit about the size of that if I shrunk it too much for the storage. But we did supply about a 750 square foot storage room with taller ceilings for things that are going to be used in a theater. So we heard from that group loud and clear. We have flats, we have props, we have things we got to store. So we have that here now. We go to the left. In the same way that we were able to before, if you have an after-hours event, you can close down completely the academic tower. So there are doors there that you can lock. We've been able to get a very efficient layout of spaces. The core is very efficient. We have the same kind of bathrooms that we talked about before that are bully-proof, more unisex-based. There are single-stall handicapped restrooms tied to those, janitor's closet, till data electrical elevator. Teacher workspace stacks up on all 3 floors. So I've been able to maintain that. We've also been able to get a bit of a learning commons, which is something Dr. Da Silva from RIDE has been pushing hard on every project that he's been involved in, which is every project. And part of that is to give students that have earned the privilege of another place to study and collaborate. There's technology, cool furniture. Think about it more like a collegiate design. If you're at a university, it's at that kind of level. But eyes are on it, so it's defensible, so you can observe what's going on. Because I was young once, so I understand what happens sometimes in those spaces. Stairs, there are 3 main egress stairs, 2, one on the north, one on the south, and 1 by the theater. I've been able to cut down to 1 elevator. That's something we can continue to talk about. The building works with 1 elevator. 2 is nice, but at that's a $250,000 add to bring another elevator back. So it's something we can continue to discuss a little bit. If we go up a floor, now here's where the science faculty are going to love me. So when I see them in a couple of weeks, this will be fun. I've been able to get to the science faculty in a lot of the CTE programs that are similar size, bigger box spaces to stack up on the right side of this plan. So as you have classrooms on the left in the tower, you have art, your business lab, computer lab. Across the way, you have more of your medical, biomed, allied health, mock pharmacy, MML classroom. We're going to talk a little bit about where we could move that in different places. There's the aqua blue color is the cafeteria open to below. So it's like a bridge element that comes across. So there's connectivity between multiple floors. There's a smaller seminar room and another classroom that are very transparent, and that acts as this sort of glass bridge between the left block and the right block. So more basic academic spaces on the left and specialties on the right. And the balcony to the theater is to the right. So a little upper theater lobby, some toilet and restrooms for the patrons who may be up here. We can talk about how we close this down after hours and control access to the rest of the building, but I think this is going to work really well for you.
Clarifying question.
Please.
With the aqua blue space and that is overlooking the cafeteria, is that like literally like overlooking the cafeteria?
Could be both.
Okay. I'm not requesting it. I'm just curious if that's
Yeah.
what's.
We've had districts go both ways. Newport, we have an open railing on the second floor, third floor. We put glass up. It was just a security feature, and it was a little tall for them. They were uncomfortable. As we develop that, that's a space where you're going to want to be seen as a student. So there'll be hangout furniture there, a little bit of a overlook at that spot. Typically, we pick the railings up to 48 inches, so they're a little taller than the 42, which is standard. But I think a lot of really good efficiency in here. I've been able to maintain wider corridors. If you remember some of the value management discussions, I didn't do that. So by folding the building and creating the third floor over this spot right here, we gained a lot of efficiency, which is fantastic. So if we go to the third floor, this is the last floor of the building. You can see the completion of the L, the 3-story L. We have the media center up here as a destination, physics labs, biology labs, chemistry labs. So, I mean, Chip, I think what we'll want to talk about is which lab goes where, what makes the most sense. But from a mechanical point of view, having chemistry labs in the top of the building makes getting the fumes out of the building very easy. So our mechanical systems got a lot more efficient as well. Learning commons are small nooks scattered throughout, great visibility down the corridors. If you look at the left of the plan, learning commons stacked up on this level as well. Very simple, all the classrooms are the same size, so there's parity amongst that. Last of the teacher workspaces on this floor, that blue, that stacks up. Bathrooms stack up. As I was talking with Chip and the superintendent, this is more like I would design a collegiate or university type of building. It's a very sophisticated design for high school, but I think it works with the way you teach in the mission for your students. So we're excited about the opportunity here. So any questions about planning before we get into colors that I probably shouldn't show?
No, Doral, you're not part of the committee that we.
What were the other labs? So that's physics and that's chemistry.
Yeah, biology. There's 6 labs there, so 2 biology, 2 chemistry, 2 physics.
All right.
Yeah, so 6 traditional of the wet labs, the sciences.
Mayor? Did the issue of, on the second floor, the visual art spaces, did the issue come up about southern exposure and natural light coming into the art space? Was that ever raised?
No, but with the way that we design glass and curtain wall and the expression, we control that now. So glare is not an issue. Yes, ideally on the north side, we can flip some spaces around if we want to, if we feel when talking with them that it makes more sense to do that. We certainly can do that. We have all those rooms are the same size, so we can flip them around based on the need, Chip, as we get kind of into discussing who goes where and what's the best relationship amongst those spaces.
Great. Okay. So in your programming discussions, that never came up. Okay.
Access to daylight has come up.
I'm sorry?
Access to daylight, having glass or having some windows.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I like the more compact design, a lot of good elements here. The one negative I see, and I'm not trying to be negative on the situation, but the media center used to overlook the open space down below into the cafeteria. Now it looks onto a roof. And so I guess my question would be is if there any way to not make it look at a roof and kind of open it up to the fields to where it gets a more, because that's usually a bright space, right? A fun space to kind of back that up on mechanicals is just not, it's a total 180 from where we were.
Yeah, so I should talk a little bit about the mechanicals, and my theory there is that there will be no mechanicals on that roof looking out of the media center, because I've got long spans on the cafeteria. I don't want to bear that weight there. The roof to the right of that, above the kitchen, is a lower roof. I would put units there. I can screen them, and then you're basically looking over them. You don't see them effectively. And that's where I need it to get makeup air for the kitchen and those types of things.
And when we were talking about the other day, you had indicated that the goal was views of the new hazard fields. Like that would be the point of that, is that you had stated that you wanted people to be able to look out from the Learning Commons out into the new fields.
Yeah.
And actually for that year when you're doing the demolition too, it could be very
It could be pretty
interesting
cool,
as a place to see out and watch what's going on during that year. But you didn't indicate that today, but that was something that they stressed when they were going over it, was like the goal would be views of the field, unobstructed. Yeah. Yeah,
and the media center kind of as a destination space tied to the sciences is kind of a natural with technology and the types of things that are going on, where your media specialists can interact with those folks very easily to develop programs and really expand the sciences into the media center, not just within the lab spaces.
You're all gonna hate me for asking this question.
Go for
it. I understand the vista, right?
Yeah.
But it's still either a rubber roof, gravel roof, whatever we're gonna have in the foreground, right?
White.
What is it?
White. It'll be a white roof, but yeah.
White roof. Yeah. Okay. So is there any ability to use that roof as an outdoor space? And you're gonna hate that question because I know it adds costs and other things, but
Well,
Do you want me?
remiss
I'll
if I
smack
didn't
him
ask.
if you want to.
I don't hate the question. I mean, I have lots of ways of thinking about that, and every community is different. One of the things that we're going to need to be careful of in every design that happens in Rhode Island, no matter where you are, is water quality and water flow, right? So when you think about there's an acre of roof here, a couple acres of roof, that water is collecting and it's going somewhere. If we process it all in the site, okay, that's putting a lot of charge into either underground or above ground. Above ground you have to maintain, there are all those types of things. If we could pre-treat on certain roofs, and we have done trace systems and green roofs and public ed projects before that are, I won't say zero maintenance, but low maintenance, so that's a way to pre-treat. It gives you something to look at. It can be part of a experiment when you think about science up on this level. That could be part of that experience for biology or science and sort of taking advantage of that space. So there are things we can certainly talk about.
Can I offer that does mean you are letting your students out on the roof? So that was one drawback in one community when they all went, maybe we don't want to let them out there. So, but they did a piece of green roof that they let adults go out in 10, students just, they preferred not to let them out. So it's a conversation.
Yeah, it is. And if we were to have students out there, I treat railings very differently. There's also the design theory about how you keep people away from the edge. The parapets get taller, railings lean in, so I can't actually physically jump on it to get over the edge. There are all sorts of designs that you can get into. But it's an interesting, good question.
Having been in high schools for a long time, with all due respect, Luke, I don't want any kids on the roof.
But it still could be a green roof that pre-treats water, so.
Does anybody else have any input right now before he goes on?
So I'm sure you're about to have a lot of input, so this is the fun part. We won't have to zoom for this, so if we go to the next image. You may want to zoom, but. So this just kind of shows you the stack up of the plan. So as I described how spaces interrelate from first floor to second floor and onward, looking at the second floor, you can see open to below. There are some of your health classrooms or health CTE spaces that overlook. It's easy enough for me to take the media center and move it to this level so it does overlook the cafeteria. Did that in Groton. Then those spaces move upstairs. Health classrooms being adjacent to science labs, that's another win-win. So if that's something that having the media center have folks go up one, down one to get to, from third floor to second floor, first floor to second floor, it's all modular. I can switch that. So something we can discuss in the next couple of weeks. But you can see the balcony up here into the theater. What do we got, about 116 or so spaces on the balcony. We've got about 640-ish on the first level of that theater. Likely that's going to go up a little on that first floor. Right, I'm showing 2 tech spaces, one low, one high. We only need 1. So wherever I decide to take it out, working with your group and our theater consultant, we'll gain some more seating. So.
And one thing that I wanted to also point out that when we were having conversations before was that the staircase-atorium came out, and that was a space that we had talked about on multiple occasions, because we do need spaces if you have like a guest speaker and not shutting down other spaces in the building. So 2 places that they said that could easily be done would be the cafeteria. Obviously, that would not be during like when you have lunch. And then they had also pointed out that the balcony, you can install like a screen that comes down, so you could actually have like someone present or have a viewing of something for 100-something students in just using the balcony as well. So these are a couple of spaces that would be usable for other things during the school day, which kind of alleviated that concern that I have, is that because right now the only space we have would be you got to shut the library down every time you want to do that, and that's not the goal. You want that to continue to be able to do its thing, and there's some flexible spaces in the building without having that staircase-atorium.
Yeah, and I think as you get into library discussions, there are more and more library design is what I'll call barrier-free. There is basically no glass. It's completely open from the library to the system, the corridor. We deal with sound very differently. When it's up in the building, it's a little easier to do, second floor or third. But it creates a more welcoming environment for your students to interact in, because libraries are very different than what they used to be. It's much more of another classroom space that's used to teach research and how to use technology and how to interact together. Becomes more group project space as well. These are hard to read. We just wanted to kind of show the stack up of the building and the compression of the footprint. And I do have a couple of images from I guess it's the bus drop-off. Could be the parent drop-off. We'll call it the front. So if we go to the next couple images, we'll have to zoom out for these. So one of the things that's interesting with a 3-story building that gets more compact, if you remember the previous scheme, the only 3-story block was on the left-hand side. So by putting more academic spaces in closer proximity to each other, we get that sort of beehive, that density of academics and kids and your teachers and your administrators collaborating together in a really great environment. Where the blue ribbon that starts out and forms a canopy for the entry for visitors coming in to check in at the desk or to drop that book bag or computer that my child forgot. Well, the glass on the upper floors are those learning commons. So you have that transparency as you're looking back out across your community, in this case to the south, and there's a similar thing that happens to the north. So in value management, one of the charges was to reduce some of the transparency. I did do that, but I collected enough of it together to have big impact moments. And when I aligned the entrances to 2 lobby or vestibule spaces, it allowed me to focus a lot of that energy and attention where it has a big impact. All the classroom spaces you can see to the right, those are the science labs on the top, and look beneath that are the art spaces. Administrative offices, nurse, other things below that. The theater entrance to the right, so that has become more formal and faced the parking and faces the south now. And the block that faces the Hazard building is that 3-story block. I'm showing 2 different color bricks right now, sort of a buff brick and a reddish brown brick. You're gonna get sick of brick colors as we kind of get to the point of looking at what the options are with that. But maximum transparency, we exceed CHIP's view and daylight, which is great. But it's an architecture that is, I think, of your community, but looks a little more forward. And I sort of took the cue for some of the images that Phil had shown a while ago and sort of interpreted those and tried to be respectful of both the budget and the value management. This sort of threads the needle on that. We can show the next couple images are just different vantage points of looking a little more left or right. So this is if I were to run across the street, there likely is a crosswalk there, and you can sort of start to see through that lobby, you can see the field out, because there's 100% transparency through that zone as you approach and come into the building. And this one is just a little bit higher in the air. I'm over to the right, as if I'm flying a drone looking at the building. I think there's an elegant amount of landscape and buffer to the street. So we have, the building is not pushed completely as far as it was towards the street. It's pushed back a little bit more. So we've been able to, with the compressed footprint, I think get a better sighting diagram. So any questions about massing, color?
So I want to thank you. This is exciting for me to see this. That's a really exciting design for me. I want to put it out there before anybody harps on you yet. This is not a
skin,
final
so, yeah,
design.
it's not,
These are
no.
not final colors.
No.
The color is a little light, needs to be a little darker. But no,
that's
understanding
fine.
that these are not final renditions, I am super excited by what I'm seeing, and it just speaks volumes to how this is an evolutionary process, and it will continue to evolve.
Yes.
And sometimes it's going to be an exciting presentation, and sometimes it's going to be not so exciting. And
Yeah.
this, to me, I won't speak, everybody else can speak their mind, is very exciting to see, and I thank
Excellent.
you.
Thank you.
All of you. So if anybody has any comments, questions, any input they want to give about what they're seeing right now?
Luke?
Do you have a site image?
No. I purposely held that.
A site plan?
No, we want to talk a little bit more in detail with a smaller group on the site before we put something out there and freak people out. So
It's still in the same spot.
it's still in the same spot, so that has not changed.
Thank you.
No, I was just going to say, aligning the two exits or
Yeah.
entrances, I love that. I love that concept about being able to look right through the building.
Yeah.
And as you enter from School Street, it's almost like there's two buildings in one.
Yeah.
And to the left is your academic, and to the right is your whatever else you want to call
Yeah,
that.
specialty spaces, yeah.
Your cultural activities.
Yep.
I think that through and through look
Yeah.
is a great concept.
Yeah. And I think one of the things we're going to continue to strive for, and I'm purposely not showing the other side because I'm still working through that. And if you hated this, I didn't want to show you the other side. But as we kind of look, as you approach as not just a student, but the public who's interacting with this after hours, if I've leased the theater or I'm using an event space in the cafeteria, or I'm a visitor coming to lose a basketball game in the gym, these buildings are community and civic hubs. They're magnets. They draw people in, and it better be clear how you approach the building, how you park, how you get to it. You want people to feel gracious and welcomed, even though they need to be secure. They need to do all those types of things, and it will. And we'll have meetings where we get into how we're doing with that. But it still needs to be welcoming and open.
So I think one of the things that was, we were in a meeting ride earlier this week, and Dr. De Silva made a point about where the space is and access, and one of the things that he was pretty impressed with as far as our community goes and where our school is, and I think that's why this particular plan was so much better received than a previous version of our plan from a few years back, is that the high school is truly the hub of our community, and when the kids come in, there's a walking path that they can use.
Yeah.
They can walk to Old Mountain Field, they walk to CBS, they walk to the bowling alley for class, and these are all classes. We have our pharmacy tech kids, we have our PE classes, and it really is the epicenter of our community, and it's going to be exciting to have like a true rendition of an exciting building there, so.
Excellent.
I love it.
I will query you all on your favorite color and least favorite color. Funny story, I was working at a Xavier
The color
University.
that Terry is wearing is our color.
Yeah, I know. So I was touring a dean, we're doing a med school for Xavier University, and touring a building we did at Duquesne, and there's vibrant colors, and we get through, I'm nervous about the colors. We get to the end, and I'm like, Dean, I got to ask you, your least favorite color and your most favorite color. It's like, Mark, it doesn't matter, I'm colorblind. So my favorite client now, because he's colorblind.
Too bad we're not all colorblind.
No.
I say I really like the old design, and I like this one a lot better.
Excellent.
It's awesome. I'm very happy that we made the selection we did on the architectural firm.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Phil, do you want to talk about
Anyone else? Anything else?
No, the next item.
Okay. Are you wrapped?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, great. Let's move on then to business item number 7. Again, discussion, no action taken, update on Curtis Corner Athletic Fields.
All right, thank you. So this is the plan that Gilbane is currently estimating. We anticipate their costs, believe February 27th. This represents a modification to trying to reduce the extent of paving. We kept the track and field where it is. Obviously, new bleachers, the existing concession stand would stay, new plaza. And they are estimating establishing a portion of the Curtis Corner Middle School for all purposes right now as a cold, dark shell that we are going to serve with the new utilities that we'd be bringing to the site. As a side, I do have a meeting scheduled next week with Terry and a few members from this committee to talk about the potential inside fit out of that, but that is outside this scope of work. I just want to reiterate, we're looking to maintain that building and the portion as a shell. We can zoom out just a little bit. For overflow parking, we would be using that front grass area. I think as you currently park on the grass for an overflow event. And recognizing that we have a budget that we need to back into here, we are asking Gilbane to, in their back pocket, have some deducts that we could consider when they come back with the estimate. I think one of the important things on this site is to establish that new entrance off of Curtis Corner Road, the one that we've centralized here. But in full disclosure, we are prepared that if we do need to value engineer Curtis Corner, we may come in off of Curtis Corner Road and then merge back onto Onion Street. But this is the preferred option. This is the right option, by the way, for the long term. So we'll look at those costs when we have them.
For those of you who aren't familiar, Onion Street is the little road that goes around the admin building up until the backfields. So just to orient this front where this road is coming in, so that's Curtis Corner Road there, and this is that's a new road that you're putting in there?
Yeah,
Is that
everything
correct?
that is dark gray
Okay.
is
new.
new.
Okay.
The admin building will remain. The pickleball courts is just a future placeholder up at the front. Tennis courts will remain in the back.
Okay. Any questions for Phil and the athletic fields?
Was the well dead that you guys?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
We talk about that just a little bit because I know it was brought up a couple times. There was like a well found, and
There's an abandoned wellhead that is to the left of the bleachers and north of the tennis courts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions for Phil?
Just for the community though, so it's 8-lane track, full width soccer field,
Yes, yes,
traditional radius track.
yes.
Are you pricing different synthetic versus natural, or you're only going one option?
Right now, we're going as it's a synthetic artificial turf.
With the pricing, what are we looking for filler for the artificial turf?
I don't know.
Okay, just curious.
We can certainly have that discussion when we get the estimate and see what they're holding as a placeholder. I think this is something we can discuss more.
The one thing we heard loud and clear was don't do the wood chips in this climate. Yeah.
And we have an athletic field consultant on our team that's helping us with the track and field.
That's it then. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Does anybody have any comments that they want to share about anything that they've seen?
Just a reminder that we got to circle back to number 4. Yeah, no, number 5.
Thank you, Dr. McGarr. That's why he's got the doctor in front of his name and I don't. So let's bring us back to item number 5, discussion action recommendation approval of commissioning agent with the updated numbers minus the 0.4 cost.
Yes. Luke, if you check your email, I did send you a revised copy with the cost. Yes. If it didn't, I can just speak to it. All right, it might be lost somewhere in cyberspace. All right, so I can just speak to it if you want to pull it up and maybe mark up over top of it. I'm happy to give you the revised total points with the cost proposal removed from the evaluation criteria. So Catalyst, the total points would be at 49. Fitzmyer-Tochi is at 60. Collier's at 57. And Stephen Turner at 63. So Stephen Turner moves to the top of the point list with the cost proposal removed from the evaluation criteria. Yes. 49 for Catalyst at the top, 60 for Fitzmyer-Tochi, 57 for Collier's, and 63 for Stephen Turner.
So we were moving pretty quickly on this, right? I mean, I just wrote the memo today and got it on the agenda. But I'm assuming on the timeline, you didn't have time to check any references. Is that correct or no? Did you check references?
I did not call any references, okay. No.
So I know we're in a tight time schedule, and this is where I'm going to look at Phil, because Phil's covering the MEP and commissioning and whatnot. Is this going to be detrimental if we delay to the next council meeting?
Is that in another month?
March 10th.
I don't think so. No, I do not think it would be detrimental to wait to check references.
Yeah.
So,
this is an important part.
Right. So that's where I'm going to is personally, I don't feel, these are $100,000+ contract. We want to get good people, and we've gotten good people. So I think at a minimum, we need to do a reference check and make sure this is the team we want. Personally, I don't know, you guys talk.
No, 100% agree. I would have thought we already did reference check as part of the scoring, so the fact that we didn't, definitely want to go back and do it. It's just too much of a red flag on that cost differential. As much as we all would love to spend less money, you know, think about your house project, the one contractor that comes in really, really low, you probably want to check the references. And we've got 2 others that are scored like in the 50s, and the prices are in the same range. I mean, 150 to 200 is a lot different than 100 to 200. So 100% agree. I think if we can wait, let's please wait.
Does anybody else have a thought? So what we can do here is we'll have a meeting before the next, so the next town council meeting is Monday, and then we'll have a meeting before the one that we would bring. So I will, if someone wants to table this agenda item to our next school building committee meeting, and I just want to get the date right. March 6th.
I'll make a motion to table it till March 6th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. That passes. Thank you. All right. That brings us to community comment. So we have a couple of folks out there. Would someone like to come up and speak? State your name. For the record, we wrap this meeting at 7.
Doral, just heads up. Puck drop at 8 o'clock.
And it's my birthday. And while I love you all dearly,
yeah. Okay, so I'm glad everybody's sitting down, so I'm just going to have to say it right out front. What I saw tonight, I love it.
adjourn the meeting now.
That's it.
No.
We're done. Okay.
Yeah, right? Drop that mic.
I do have a couple of questions. I came here ready to go the other way tonight, so I'm very pleased. Okay, so when you said, you mentioned you shrunk the complex. So do we have a new total square footage number?
153.
Oh, okay.
Roundabout. 153,000.
How about an estimated EUI score?
We're still projecting less than 20.
So just for the public, still projecting less than 28?
That's the energy efficiency score for people that
Thank you.
might be listening, but they don't know. I really like, you listen to the concerns of the teachers who teach the sciences, because they were asking for them to be grouped together, so they're going to be really happy. That's awesome. The only two nitpicky things I got is, one is in the gymnasium, there's a door on either end that I'm assuming that those doors will be padded like the rest of the walls, so when the athletes go crashing into the walls, because you have very little space between the end of the basketball court and the wall. So where you have doors, those will be padded so they won't go, and they'll be closed. What's that? So that there'll be a total closure of that wall on both ends for games.
We have more than required runoff for scholastic sports. I think we have 11 feet, 9 feet is recommended.
So you have 11 feet between the court and the wall?
The end line of the court.
And the wall? Okay. And that wall, to kind of reiterate what Doral, you're saying, that whole wall is padded, And those two doors that you're pointing out, the SLAM is saying those also will be padded and closed. So it'll be a complete wall.
Okay. Okay. And the other thing was the auditorium. So originally the auditorium, the seating was sort of conical shaped on the first floor. So it had some curvature to it. And so the way it is now, that gives you, so is there, you know what I'm talking about, right?
What I'll say is it's not designed, so we end up working with the seating consultant.
Sure, sorry.
So that's just there as a reference. You know, we're still hitting our target numbers. As I mentioned during the brief presentation, we just showed it straight right now. That's a whole design where I have to get in and do the concave curve. The seats get offset, so I'm not looking at the back of somebody's head. I'm looking in between their heads. So that's a study that still has to happen.
And lastly, so would you call this the schematic design that then will be turned into the final design? Is that what we're talking? This is sort of like the schematic, the end of the schematic thing that you're going to send to RIDE? Is that what this is?
So we have submitted to the RIDE portal the schematic design that was estimated, that was generated previously. While that is under review, and we had a meeting with RIDE this week, we are continuing with this design in design development.
All right, so that brings me back to my main point tonight. So right now, unless I've missed something, so we have the original estimate from Studio Jade. Then Studio Jade did the stage 2 submission, the application. So there's another estimate, cost estimate. And then Gilbane, last November, 3.5 months ago, did another cost estimate. Each one of those cost estimates is not to the number of square footage that we see here tonight. What I'm concerned about is with what we're seeing now, you know, we're hearing now with the tariffs and everything, that I'm hoping that you will ask your consultants that you like an updated, as close as possible, an updated cost estimate, so that we know now, in the next couple of weeks, what the new cost is. Okay, because we don't have one. And when I looked at Gilbane's cost estimate, one of the things I noticed was that for soft costs, they were taking a 25%. So you have the cost of the building up here, and then they were taking the total cost and then adding a percentage to come up with the total cost of the building. So you have the cost for the construction, and then you have the soft cost. But the soft cost that they have here add up to 25% of the total cost of the building. So that's a concern for me, because I believe that the school building authority will only pay for 20% soft cost. Now, in these soft costs, in this column down here from Gilbane, they have $15.5 million for contingency and escalation. So those are the two lines that I'm concerned about from what's going on now. So as you know, if you get a new estimate, is there still $15.5 million sitting there in those two line items, or is reduced now because of what's going on? That's a question you need to have answered, okay? Because the bottom line is, we authorize $150 million. That's what the taxpayers voted for. I believe you're up to 152.5 now with the PAYGO funds.
We're at 150 million. Those are all contingency numbers. We're still at 150 million.
So the 2.5 million PAYGO, that's part of the 150?
As of right now. And with the estimates, and the experts can speak to it if I'm not doing it justice, but they will continue because they're estimates, right? So we will continue getting new estimates
Right.
as we move along. Can you speak to the what he's talking about with the 25% versus the 20%, and what that will look like?
Yes, so the 80-20, you are correct. 20% is anticipated as soft costs. The way that they break out their soft costs are a little bit different than how we budget. So I'm happy to kind of work through, but we are at 80-20 for soft costs. And then as far as our next estimate, it'll be at the end of design development. We'll look to have a reconciled estimate about the third week of May. That'll be the next time we get a published estimate from Gilbane. At that time, the design and estimating contingency should reduce because we'll have more detailed design, so we don't need to hold as large of a contingency. We'll be closer to the period of bidding, so we'll be able to reduce some of the escalation, hopefully, as well. So those numbers should naturally come down as part of the next estimate.
So what you're saying is that they're not going to get another estimate until like May?
Yes.
That's a long way off. And so, because the questions you're going to have to be just going through are, when you're talking about exterior of the building, is it going to be real brick or not real brick? Is it going to be steel plates? All those things are going to be coming down the line. And you want to try and mitigate as much as possible having to use lesser quality materials that over time may end up costing you more in the long run, considering this building is supposed to last 50 plus years.
Is there any opportunity to get other estimated costs before then? No? Okay. Yep.
So one of the things in the way that we run our practice is we're not bashful, right? You'll get to figure that out. But we're constantly talking to Tony and his crew at Gilbane. So when I make some of these moves, we say, hey, Tony, this was the value management target. I want to do this. Thumbs up, thumbs down. So we're not doing this in a vacuum as architects in the dark. We're working with the team that we have access to make sure we mitigate the risks as we get to that stage.
Thank you for that.
It's Don Smith with a really quick question. Fly system for the theater. I just didn't see it in the second or third story. Yeah, as long as it's there. You know, all I saw was a little trough in the second story. Yeah, sure.
Fly has the fly loft is a particular code nasty thing. So what happens with a fly loft is I need a 4-hour rated curtain. I need to vent the fly loft. It typically adds about $1 million, $1.5 million to a project. Mm-hmm. What we do is we don't call things stages, we call them platforms. We've had this discussion before. You can still fly scenery. I just can't fly it 50 feet in the air like you'd see at the P-Pack
we don't want to do that.
Yeah, so it will still function as a theater should function. It just has some code restraint applied to it.
Cool.
Any other comments from the folks? One more question? We need to see Matthew and Brady Kachuk. Let's go.
Are you going to get your floating floor?
going to be indoor turf. Great. All right. So that will wrap community comment and bring us to our last agenda item, discussion action, next meeting date, time, agenda items. As discussed, our next meeting is February 6th here, 6 p.m. I'm sorry, March 6th, thank you. March 6th here, 6 p.m. We already have the approval of commissioning agent as an agenda item slotted for that meeting. Please feel free to email me any other suggestions between now and then, and I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
So Dave Palazetti made motion, who second?
Second.
Luke second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting's adjourned at 7:13.